Welcome to a new tutorial, Blending 101 Reverse Airtouch with a twist. So it turns out some of you guys like weird. That's great. So today gets a little weird and you're going to have to see that. But this is my client, Melissa. She's my cousin. I love her. And she has some grown out roots and she does not want to have such a big difference between her natural level 8 and her previously grown out foils. So the biggest issue here that we face is that her top foils with some sun exposure over the summer have become too bright and solid, and she wants dimensional, lived in, piecey strand lights. And so that's a little bit of a task on its own, but overall we have to add in low lights today because what we really like is what's under here. This has been protected from the sun exposure and you can see how soft and dimensional that is. And yes, it does need a slight touch up, but it's really not super noticeable with that root grow out because she has such a subtle look and she likes subtle low contrast. You can really especially tell the difference between how bright her top is versus everything underneath with this clip here. I warned you. Anyways, this is looking too blonde and too solid, and what we want to see is some more dimensional softness, some level 8s, and we want to see some coppery tones in here. So I'm going to show you guys how I do this with Reverse Airtouch. So today's low light formula is Schwarzkopf Vibrance 7-57, 8-46, and 9-57, all in equal ratios to each other, 1 to 1 to 1, with 13 volume lotion, mixing the lotion developer 1 to 1 with the toner. So the reason why we're doing all these warm colors is because my client loves golden, sunny, almost coppery blondes, and that's what we're adding in. She was saying things like a strawberry blonde, Taylor Swift, lived in. She loves these aesthetics, so that's what we're sticking with. The -57 formulas are a gold copper, and the -46 formula is a beige chocolate. So this is going to be a warm and controlled low light. And then for the highlight today, we have Wella Blondorplex and 10 volume. What I love about Blondorplex is that it's super, super sticky and it's a slower lift. And because we're going to be using Airtouch, it's going to add some heat to the foils today and we don't want to over process her hair. So we are just going to be using a 10 volume and go low and slow and super gentle. Now what I'm doing here with the sides that I'm starting with is I am strand lighting, baby lighting a piece right up in the front. And this is going to give her a really, really soft lift for her ponytail. When she lifts her hair up, she likes to see just a couple of soft baby lights. She doesn't want a money piece because that's just too strong looking on her. Then behind that piece directly, we're going to put a low light, and that's going to be a slightly bigger small weave. And that's just going to allow a little bit of contrast and break up that hard root line that we have with our blonde versus our roots. Then after that, another highlight. And then we take what's left of this chunk, we blow dry out those short bits, and we're going to low light just these short bits. Everything else from this chunk is going to be left out the way it is and just retoned at the sink. And then this is going to give us a really, really soft area around the temples. Now, you might have to get really close to some of your clients. Luckily, mine don't really mind this when I kind of straddle their legs, but this is for detailing in the bangs. I'm going to show you how I highlight bangs because bangs are really, really difficult, you guys. Bangs can so easily cross over from being too light to too dark or too dark to too light because they can look very separated from the rest of the hair if you don't perfectly balance out how many highlights and lowlights you're putting in. So for her bangs today, I put in 0 lowlights. What I did was I just did teeny tiny baby lights in her bangs, and I did a decent size section here, as you can see, and I tried to be very conservative with the amount of hair I'm putting into the foil because I don't want to give her super blonde foils in just the front and then everything else is being more muted style today. I didn't want to do that. It's happened before. We've had to put in a couple low lights into her bangs. We don't love putting a low light into a bang. It ends up being more obvious than you think it's going to be. So the way I like to do bangs here is to just go less is more when we're doing something soft and lived in like this. and to just, go on a hope and a prayer. And I know that there should be better information for you guys when it comes to bangs, but it's really person to person. You have to really just play around with positioning for all of your foils, placement and whatnot, and how much condensed blonde they want to see in theirs. But what I do always like to do with this client, because she likes that lived-in look, is I leave the very top little bit of the triangle for her bangs as a veil, untouched, to splay over her bangs. And that just provides this softer grow out for her roots in the bangs. Because again, if you put in so much blonde, that's great if they want a lot of blonde, but she doesn't. And what she really doesn't want to see is a root grow out in those bangs. This is just another view of the tomfoolery that we got up to today. If you have a client who loves you a lot, they might pat you on the bum and then you can threaten to sue them later. I'm just kidding. I love her. She's my cousin. She's allowed to touch me. So yeah, client privileges. Now let's get started on the back and the top. So what we're doing here with the back is we're going to be taking out these nape of the neck sections, and we're going to be giving these a soft baby light because we want to give her hair an Airtouch softness to when she pulls up her hair, because she really doesn't like to see hard root lines when she pulls up her hair anywhere around. But we do want to still give her a little bit of brightness and some softness. So this is the only space that I'm using Airtouch for the highlights. The rest of the space I'll be using Airtouch for the lowlights, which is going to be a very interesting thing for you guys to see, I think. Airtouch is a favorite method of mine. The only issue with it is the absolutely massive amount of time you have to commit to doing an Airtouch procedure. Luckily, the processing time is faster with Airtouch because you've added so much warmth to the foils that they're going to bump up pretty fast. And usually you're putting in so fine of a section in the foil that it lifts up quickly anyways. But yeah, Airtouch itself is a very time expensive procedure, which is why people who do specialize in it tend to charge a lot. So I've done those two corner pieces and then one in the center to kind of bring them all together and fuse that whole underneath area as a very soft baby light. Now what I'm going to be doing here is taking this larger section and I'm going to be sectioning out a little bit from the top, bringing out this bottom piece, and I'm going to be air touching out and pulling down these little pieces that I've left out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a low light. And this low light is going to sit right next to the highlights, which is going to get the highlights to pop more, even though they're very soft and subtle, and there's very few strands that have been highlighted. It allows for some contrast back to back. Then I'm leaving out some hair in the middle, and I'm doing a weave with a blended highlight that I just kind of sweep upwards towards the top of that highlight. And I'm not trying to get anywhere really too close to the roots here because I want a really soft grow out. So I'm kind of doing some hand painting, well, not hand painting, some blending there with the brush. And I'm going to be doing that with these two side pieces as well. A good tip is to pull these pieces aside while you foil them away. Double check them before you start actually coloring if you're taking a section this large, just to see that your ratios are the same before you actually start your color service when you're doing right to left to right to left to right to left. If that makes any sense to you guys. Please, of course, let me know in the comments below if any of this isn't making sense so I can clarify it to you guys. And so this piece right here, again, we're kind of balayaging up the piece. We're not going right up to the scalp, right up to the root. And this is all about interesting color placement for me. I want to provide her with a very, very soft grow out underneath, but I still want some of that dimension for when she curls her hair or does anything fun with it. We get to see a pop of that color. And right here around the ear, what I'm doing is I'm pulling down a bit of a baby weave. And this baby weave I'm going to highlight because, again, when she pulls up her hair, this is what's going to be right there against the scalp, and we want that to be a little pop of some brightness. Also for some continuity too, because we have it as haloed all the way around her hairline. We don't want to have a little chunk just behind the ear that is baby lit with low lights, if that makes any sense. It does a bad thing for the hair. It kind of separates that whole halo. We'd rather it all be consistently little highlights around the hairline. Then I take a large section here. And as you can see, again, I am blowing out any of this kind of mid-length and shorter hairs. And the key to doing this right when it comes to Airtouch is to basically pinch the hair that you don't want to have come out at the length you don't want to have it come out at. So I'm holding decently far down the hair because she has quite long hair. But from anywhere that I want to see it being pretty solidly blonde, that's where I position my fingers for each section and pinch so that none of that hair escapes with the blow dryer and gets blown out into the area that's going to be the low light. And that allows us to have a really soft ombre effect where she has a little bit more rooty look at the top, and we've preserved that blonding at the ends. Everything that's being low lit right now is being blended right up into those little hairs, but it's also anything that is being low lit doesn't reach all the way down to those blonde ends. So those blonde ends are preserved, and again, providing a little bit more contrast in a good way. We still want to have contrast in her hair because we want to show that she has some dimension. You do need contrast for dimension. We just don't want high contrast here with this client. She doesn't like black against white. She likes light gray against medium gray if you're thinking about contrast in a really two-dimensional way. Beyond that low light, we're going to be putting in a highlight here. And what I'm doing on this side, I'm going to be repeating exactly onto the other side. And so this highlight here, I'm just kind of letting those ends stay in the foil and kind of just lightly touch whatever bleach is in there. And that's just going to bump them a tiny bit, but really not a lot. And then we're going to do a larger chunky weave with this low light. And because of its placement, she's not likely to part her hair in this way where you would just see these chunky low lights. This isn't in a high risk area of like seeing something too chunky you don't want to see. But anyways, we still want to give her a lot of blend up at the top of the roots with the brushes anyways, because we don't want to have, again, a harder grow out. And this is part of the process, is giving it a really soft blend for any piece that you do, whether it's a highlight or a low light, up towards the roots. The only ones that I'm doing right up to the scalp you're going to see are going to be my micro slices. With this piece back here, as it's connecting the back area to the front area, I am taking a much larger section than I am for the rest of the mohawk because I want to connect our back, which has more chunky, piecey slices, and then the top, which is all very, very dainty, teensy tiny highlights and very soft low lighting. So we're trying to just bridge that gap there with that first piece. Now we have our entire mohawk section, and this whole section is going to be done the same pattern, but the way that I'm going to be doing it is at the back of the head, I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive with my low light and how much hair is going to go into the low light versus the front, where I'm going to be taking less hair with my Airtouch and putting that into the low light. So we slowly get from blonder from the front to less blonde near the back, the apex of her head. Does that make any sense? If not, please mention in the comments. I'll see if there's any kind of other way I can write it down. But yes, we are being more generous with the amount of hair we're putting into our low light foils here because we do want to see a softer grow out around the apex of her head where the hair tends to open up and part, leaving, kind of a big, rooty, like a hole in the back of her head. Not a hole, but like a big, rooty opening. And we just want to soften that up. So as you guys can see how thin I'm making these like slices, this is going to be something that you're probably going to doubt a lot if you're doing thin slices for the first time. And this is only something you want to do for the softest, most subtle baby lights possible. What you also have to consider is how large you're making your sections in general. These sections are actually quite small, which is why it takes me so long to foil this piece, this whole chunk of the head, because I'm taking each section and I am dividing it into a low light, a leave out, and a slice, as you can see with probably a little bit better footage here. Here's the low light, that's going in, and as you can see, as I'm getting closer to the front, less hair is going into that low light. I pull out whatever is going to be left in between, and this teeny tiny, you can read through it type of highlight strand is being left at the front for this little pop of blonde. But again, we don't want it to look like chunks of blonde. We want a little bit of dimension, want a little bit of difference between our level 8 Lowlights and our level 9 highlights, which is, again, this is such a low contrast look, but we want to provide depth and dimension. This is the big challenge of something like this today because her natural is so light. We don't want to add in a level 6 or a 7 low light. That's going to look terrible in her hair. We want to match something that's on the same level as what she currently has. And because she loves coppers and golds, we're adding those in, and that's just going to provide her with a really shiny, healthy appeal, and it's going to complement her skin really well because her color palette is an autumn tone. And if you don't know what that means, it just means that she pairs well with bright colors and warm colors. She doesn't pair super well with a lot of cool toned colors unless they're very specific. I don't really know how all of that works, but it really works on her hair today with the formula that we used. And you're just going to see what that all looks like. Here was my formulation for the toner. We did Schwarzkopf Vibrance 9-57 and 6 volume at the bowl once I've rinsed this out. So again, yes, her lowlights are a level 8 and her highlights are a level 9. Super, super low contrast today. And we are using the 957, which is a 9 gold copper. Now on to all of our favorite part is the 2 stars and a wish with the reveal. Yes, you guys are seeing a slight rose goldy hint tone to those air touched mids and root areas. We absolutely adore this color on her. It really, really suits her skin tone and just brightens up her complexion. This is so soft and pretty on her. It was a slightly unexpected look is to get that tiny bit of a pink, but that comes from the Dash 46, which has a cool beige and a chocolate, which is a red-based brown. So that's where I'm assuming we get a little bit of that slightly pinkish look, mixing that with a gold copper. This is made for such a pretty rose gold. As for my stars, I'm so happy with taking a risk for that toner, and so is my client. She absolutely loves it. The blending is immaculate. I'm super happy with how those teeny tiny slices worked out. They appear just as much as I need them to blend the roots with the old foils, but not so much that they're creating a chunky look. And I was scared of that with the amount of hair that I was leaving out and the sizes of our pieces, but I'm very happy with that. I do wish I was a bit more brave with the lowlights, guys, because look at how pretty this is in the front where we have that big piece that I did a larger chunk of Airtouch lowlights. This was our favorite piece in the hair, is on either side we could get a little bit more pop of that rose gold tone, and we were so loving that. I wish I did a little more of it. Wish it was a little more bold. And this is what it looks like overall. I just think it just adds this really, really unique look to it, and it gives us almost like a Barbie lived-in blonde. We're so impressed with the fact that pinky copper really works on her, you guys. Look at her complexion. This is so nice. And this is just funny, but if any lip readers want to tell us what she said, you'll know. Overall, we're happy. As I've said probably a bunch of times, we've blended the roots, we've given her something lower maintenance and still bright and still blonde, but not too solid. What do you guys think? Please don't hesitate to comment below, and let me know if you would have changed up the toner or done anything different. If you wanted something obviously without a rose gold tone, just don't use that toner. Use a formulation of your own or one of my other ones from another video. Anyways, love you guys. Have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the video, even though it was a weird one. And as always, please remember to like and subscribe, and I will see you at the next one. Bye, guys.